talk about repurposing your blog content so you can get more mileage out of your hard-earned, perfectly crafted prose. So the most recent blog post I wrote, I spent over 5 hours working on it. And after putting that much time into something, and that doesn't even count the time my colleague Amy spent reviewing it, and I spent thinking about it, and thanks Amy, by the way. After putting all that time into my blog, I don't want to just let it sit there and have that be the only place where it's seeing the light of day. So I want to talk about 5 ways you can repurpose the content in your blog post across social media platforms. So let's see, you've got your blog post, you've chosen an image, you've got several paragraphs, many paragraphs and sentences of well-honed prose about your topic. And what is all of that content about, right? It's full of, sure, it's paragraphs and sentences, but it's also full of short sentences, parts of sentences, little quotes that you can pull out that encapsulate some of your main points. Maybe they summarize what you're trying to get across. Maybe they are short examples of what you're writing about. All of these quotes can be pulled out of your blog content, out of your blog article, and reused across social media. So, first thing I recommend doing is after you're finished writing your blog post and as you're reviewing it for grammar and spelling or just giving it a once over before you publish, pay attention to areas where you can pull out short quotes. And they don't have to be super short. Sometimes a useful quote is even several sentences or maybe several short paragraphs. But as you're going through your blog post, pay attention to the areas where you can pull out little pieces of content that have some value to them. Like I said, examples, case studies, summarizing sentences, short lists, etc. So make a practice to pull these out of your blog post as you work on it. And I recommend keeping those in a sheet. I love Google spreadsheets, and that's what I use to keep track of all this kind of content. So have a cache of these quotable snippets of text in your Google Sheet that you can come back to use and repurpose in other places across social media. So once you have some quotes that you've pulled out and you're ready to use them in new ways, a couple of things I recommend doing with them. One, you can use them to create quote memes. And that's just the text that you pulled from your blog post, overlaid on top of an image, and shared on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It can be shared with a link to your blog, or it can just be shared by itself as a shareable piece of valuable content that folks might be able to learn from. I recommend using a service like IFTTT, If This Then That, or Zapier. I've used both services with clients, and I think they both work great. Those two services can help you set up, what's the best way to describe them? IFTTT used to call them recipes, but basically they're just connections. They're between different social media platforms. So for example, if you post one of your quote memes to Instagram, you can use one of these connecting services to automatically share that post to Facebook and Twitter. You want to make sure you test it so the formatting looks right, it doesn't do anything weird or cut off your text or just display a link. But this can be a helpful way so that you're not manually posting all these quote memes you've just created to each platform individually. Now, you might wonder if it's okay to use the same sized image across different social media platforms. And some will say that there are a lot of resources out there that tell you what the ideal image size is for each social media network. I find in my experience that using a square image, which is ideal for Instagram, works just fine on Facebook and Twitter, and it can save you a lot of time to just make one square quote meme rather than a different size for each social media network you're posting to. So after you have a cache of your own quotes from your blog post, you can use them to make quote memes to share on social media. Third thing you can do is you can use Click to Tweet, a free service, which is just clicktotweet.com. to create a click to tweet option, which you can embed back into your blog post or share in an email to your list to encourage folks to spread the word about your content on their social media channels, specifically on their Twitter. So the fourth thing you can do is you can create unique pins. I didn't mention Pinterest when I was talking about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because Pinterest images should be vertically oriented. They should be long and thinner. I don't know why I need to explain vertical. I think you know what that means. Portrait orientation, in other words. So they really do need their own size. I wouldn't recommend using a square image for Pinterest, but what you can do on Pinterest is you can make a quote meme, so you can overlay a quote of your own on an image and share that to Pinterest. I also recommend overlaying the title of your blog post on a vertical image and sharing that to Pinterest as well to encourage people to click to your website and read your content. So the fifth thing you can do is use your quotes as post captions. I've been having a lot of success with this with several of my clients. This is where the longer quotes, like multiple sentences, maybe even a few short paragraphs, can be ideal, right? Because now that, especially with Facebook's latest algorithm change that's designed to encourage people or to prioritize content that sparks discussion, it can be helpful to write longer posts. You still want to accompany them with a video, an image, or a link to it somewhere else, preferably a video or an image, frankly. But longer post text that shares a short story, lists some helpful information, shares a quote, these are more likely to spark discussion than just a quick call to action to read your blog post. But you don't have to necessarily write these posts from scratch. You can pull content from your blog, maybe rearrange it a little bit, optimize it a little bit so it reads better on the Facebook network or on Instagram, and then use that to have a new piece of content for your network, for your channels. So that was 5. I guess we're on 6. So the 6th thing is to use your own quotes as inspiration. So especially if you find people commenting on a certain aspect of your blog content, a certain point that you made, or asking for more information about a specific something you said, use that to expand on that particular topic. You can start with your own quote, and then you can maybe slice it up and make paragraphs out of each sentence in the quote, or simply expand and go into more detail about the topic. But more often than not, you write a blog post and you could go into much more detail about each component than you have space to do in one blog post. So using your own quotes, your own content as inspiration to write yet more content is a great way to get extra mileage out of the content you've already written. I've said the word content so many times. So final thing I want to mention is, how do you add this to your schedule? I said that I spent over 5 hours on my last blog post. I also spent about an additional hour just on promotion. And that's a much smaller fraction than the time that I spent crafting the blog post itself. And that time is really well spent. It will ensure all of what I just mentioned will ensure that your content is being shared across social media, being shared by other people. Of course, you want to share it with your email list and maybe send it to your little cheerleading squad. But what can be tricky about this is, after you've spent 5-ish hours writing content, the last thing you probably want to do is keep working on the damn blog post. So the best thing to do is to just make it part of your blog protocol. Put it in a spreadsheet or write it in a checklist, but make sure you have a step-by-step process that outlines all of the action items that you need to complete after you publish the blog post. Those could be all the things I just mentioned. Maybe you move your quotes to another sheet where you keep inspiration for future blog posts. Like I said, it took me about an hour to do what I mentioned, and that's an hour well spent. And one thing you could consider trying is actually trading that extra hour of promotion with a colleague, a fellow entrepreneur or business person. Because sometimes it can make all the difference to give your eyes a break from your own content, but still provide the service to somebody else in exchange for them doing it for you. That might be a more palatable or more appealing way of doing this promotion, the promotional part of publishing your content, because really, when you hit publish, you're not done, right? Like the whole, or not the whole point, but one of the big points of getting writing out there, it's content marketing. You want people to read it. You want it to help them. You want them to get to know you. And so by just hitting publish, you're not making a lot of steps towards that further goal of becoming known for your content and letting it out in the world to help people. So I encourage you to expand your blog post protocol, so to speak. Add these promotional items at the end. Make sure you're doing them or doing them with a partner. And yeah, I guess that's everything. So if you have further ways or systems or processes that you use to make sure you're promoting your content, to make sure you're not letting it die in anonymity on the internet after you hit publish on your website, would love to hear about them. Please let me know in a comment, or you can contact me privately. I would love to hear some of your ideas and some of the things that you've found most successful for getting your content out there, and how you motivate yourself to do it. If you find that you run out of energy after you hit publish, I'd love to hear how you cajole yourself or persuade yourself or motivate yourself to go that extra mile, do the extra legwork to really allow your content to shine across the internet and connect with people that you want to help, that you want to serve. Thanks for watching. Bye.